Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The Shadow knows.
Once again, we bring you the thrilling adventures of The Shadow, the hard and relentless fight of one man against the forces of evil. These dramatizations are designed to demonstrate forcibly to old and young alike that crime does not pay. The Shadow, who aids the forces of law and order, is in reality Lamont Cranston, wealthy young man about town. Years ago in the Orient, Cranston learnt a strange and mysterious secret. The hypnotic power to cloud men's minds so they cannot see him. Cranston's friend and companion, the lovely Margot Lane, is the only person who knows to whom the voice of the invisible Shadow belongs. Today's story, The Shadow Challenged. Our adventure begins in the book-lined study of Professor Rice of the Cosmopolitan Museum. Tousled-haired, with glasses perched precariously on the bridge of his nose, the professor is writing furiously. Suddenly, the telephone shrills.
Hello. Oh, no. I can't speak to him. And please don't contact me again. I'm busy working and I don't wish to be disturbed. Thank you. Now, let me see. Where was I? Oh, yes. What was that?
I'm sorry to interrupt your work, Professor Rice.
Who is that? Who's speaking? I see no one.
I am called the Shadow.
The Shadow? I've heard of you. What are you doing here?
That manuscript you're translating, Professor Rice. It is of great value, isn't it?
Yes, sir, of course, but...
I want you to give it to me, Professor.
Give you this manuscript? Why, that's impossible. It's not mine. It belongs to the museum. It's a direct key to the ancient Hindu culture.
I know. That's why I've come here. I want that manuscript.
Look here. I've always had a great respect for you, Shadow. You've always worked for the forces of good against the forces of evil. But now you're behaving like a common thief.
Give me that manuscript.
No.
Very well. I see that I must use other methods.
What do you mean? What are you going to do?
This is what I'm going to do, Professor Rice.
Shadow. Oh, why did you do this?
To think that I've believed you all these years, Lamont Cranston, when you told me what a golfer you were.
I've just had an off day, that's all, Margot. The wind was too strong.
Now, don't go building up that little breeze into a hurricane and blaming it for your poor golf.
All right, you win.
Are we time for a swim?
Yes, I think so. I'll get the car and we'll drive down to Sandy Beach.
Good.
I've got to vindicate my athletic ability in some fashion.
Piper, mister! We know about the floods up north.
Don't they ever change that headline here, son?
Not till I think of a better one. Piper, mister?
Yes, all right, here you are.
Gee, thanks. Extra! Floods spreading all down. We know about it.
Well, how bad are the floods? Are all the rivers running a banker?
Margot, you're talking like a tourist. All they need is a shower up north to cause a headline like this.
Oh, really?
Of course. If you get used to those headlines up. Margot, look at this.
What is it?
This story must stop press. Museum professor murdered by the Shadow.
By the Shadow?
That's what it says. Professor Rice of the Cosmopolitan Museum was found dying in his home late this evening by the police. His dying depositions are believed to include a statement to Commissioner Weston in which he described his assailant as an invisible man who called himself the Shadow.
Lamont, that's impossible. How do you explain it?
I have no explanation. One thing is certain. I'm seeing Commissioner Weston You say, Commissioner Weston, that the dying man swore that his assailant was the Shadow.
Yes, Cranston, that's correct.
I don't believe it.
Now, look here, Miss Lane. Facts are facts.
No, what Margot means, Commissioner, is that she cannot believe that the Shadow would do such a thing.
Well, of course, that's her opinion. As for myself, I think differently.
What do you mean?
I've always suspected that the Shadow was a criminal at heart, and
That's not true.
Oh? Then why has he always remained invisible? No, I tell you, he's a bad egg, and this murder confirms it.
This manuscript, the one that the murderer stole from Professor Rice, what do you know about it?
Well, it's something that the professor was working on. Rice and 3 other scholars are employed by the Cosmopolitan Museum, specializing in the restoration and recreation of ancient Hindu culture.
I see, yes. Of course, I'm acquainted with all of them and their work.
Well, you probably know more about it than I do, then. Anyway, this manuscript was very valuable to them.
But what value would it have for anyone else?
I don't know, Miss Lane, and I'm not worried about it. My job is to find who killed Professor Rice, and the answer is pretty apparent. It's the Shadow.
And the motive?
Theft, my friend. Good old-fashioned theft. The Shadow wanted that manuscript, and he killed the professor to get it.
Commissioner, I don't think that the Shadow had anything to do with it.
Now, look here. I heard the accusation with my own ears, just before the unfortunate Professor Rice gave up the ghost.
Nevertheless, I believe the Shadow's innocent, and I intend to prove my point.
How?
Well, with your permission, I'd like to go to the museum and talk to Professor Rice's associates, see what I can learn.
All right, Cranston. Go ahead. But I tell you, there's nothing to find out. The Shadow's guilty of murder.
We'll leave the car here, Margot. I believe that the night entrance to the museum is in this wing.
Lamont, do you suppose that someone has discovered your secret and is misusing it in the Shadow's name?
That's possible, Margot.
What else could it be?
Well, perhaps Weston is putting the blame of the crime on the Shadow to excuse his department's inability to solve the murder.
Oh, what a horrible thing to do.
It's just a supposition, Margot. Here we are. I'll have to ring for the night watchman.
What do you expect to learn here, Lamont?
Well, I want to talk to the other professors, find out more about the missing manuscript.
Yes, what is it?
Good evening. We wish to see either Professors Carter or Hagen or Professor Armour. I know they're working here this evening.
Are you expected?
Yes, we are.
Come in. We seldom have visitors at this late hour.
I suppose not.
I must ask you to walk quietly, please. They do not like to be disturbed.
You mean the professors?
Oh, no, not the professors. I mean those who live here.
Oh, are there people living here?
Shh. This is their time to rest.
Who?
Those that you see about you. The statues, the paintings. It tires them, you know, people staring at them through the day.
Oh, yes. Yes, I can understand that.
Lamont, does he mean...
The statues must appreciate your consideration for them, sir.
Oh, aye, they do. They know that I watch over them through the night. There's the door to the offices. I must leave you here.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yes, it was nice of you to show us the way.
Not at all. Good night.
Wow. Cheerful fellow. Makes you feel right at home.
Yes. Well, let's get into the office.
It's you, Mr. Cranston. I didn't expect to see anyone.
I'm sorry. This is Miss Lane, Professor Carter.
How do you do, Miss Lane? Won't you go into the office? Professor Ammett is there. I have to come start a file. I'll be right back.
Oh, yes. Thanks, Professor Carter. Come along, Margot. May we come in?
Oh, yes. Of course, Mr. Cranston. Do come in.
Thank you. I don't believe you know Miss Lane.
No, I have never had the pleasure.
This is Professor Armour, Margot.
How do you do, Professor?
I am most delighted to make your acquaintance. Won't you both be seated?
Thank you.
I spoke to Professor Hagen this afternoon. Did he explain to you the purpose of my visit?
Yes, he did. You are interested, I believe, in solving the murder of our most worthy colleague, Professor Rice.
Yes.
A very noble endeavor.
I thought I might begin by learning more about the manuscript that Professor Rice was working on when he was killed.
An excellent beginning.
What was its value, Professor Ahmed?
The missing manuscript was quite priceless in rarity, but its monetary value was slight indeed, because any attempt to resell it would bring immediate arrest.
What was in the manuscript, Professor?
I must confess that I do not know. You see, it was one section of a single volume that the four of us were translating. Each of us took 1/4 of the work.
The work deals with ancient Hindu culture, doesn't it?
Yes.
Would it by any chance contain any secrets of that ancient civilization which could be of value to someone today?
I fear that I am not at liberty to answer that question, Mr. Cranston. Perhaps Professor Hagen might be of greater service to you. He is our superior, you know.
Where is the professor?
He is working in the laboratory upstairs. I shall be most willing to go up and get him for you.
Oh, but can't you...
I shall return in a moment with Professor Hagen. You will excuse me, Miss Lane, Mr. Cranston. Thank you.
Well, our Hindu friend didn't appear to be too willing to talk.
No. I believe that he knows much more than he cared to tell.
Lamont, I wonder if he... Oh. Should we answer it?
Oh, I suppose we should... Oh, I suppose we'd better. Hello.
Who am I speaking to?
This is Lamont Cranston.
Oh, then I can leave my message with you.
What is it?
Of the 3 men who once were 4, one more is about to die.
Who is this? Who's speaking?
The Shadow.
The Shadow? Hello. Hello. Hello.
What's the matter, Lamont?
That person on the phone called himself the Shadow.
Then there is an impersonator.
Yes.
Sorry to be so long.
Mr. Carter, someone just called on the phone. He said that one of you 3 professors is about to die.
What?
It might just be a crank, but we can't take any chances.
Where are the others?
Upstairs in the laboratory. You better take us up there at once.
Yes, follow me. Up these stairs.
There's trouble up there. Hurry, Carter.
That sounds like Amwood. Right in here.
What's wrong in here? You'd better stay out of here, Margot. It's not a pleasant sight.
Amwood, what happened? What happened to Professor Hagen?
I found him so, on the floor, dying.
Was he still alive when you got here?
Yes, barely alive.
Could he talk to you? Did you learn anything?
Yes. He told me that his attacker was an invisible man who called himself the Shadow.
Well, Margot, we now have definite proof that someone is impersonating the Shadow.
Yes. What can you do about it?
Don't worry, Margot. I've always used the power of the Shadow to aid the forces of law and order, to help good conquer evil.
Yes, I know.
And now that someone else has discovered my secret of invisibility and is misusing this power, I shall travel to the ends of the earth to conquer him. This, Margot, is the Shadow's greatest challenge.
We'll find out how the Shadow meets his challenge in just a moment. And now, back to the Shadow. It is the next morning. Back in Lamont Cranston's flat, Margot and Lamont discuss the startling events of the past 24 hours.
Lamont, have you uncovered any clues? Any leads as to the identity of the person who is masquerading as the Shadow?
Nothing important, no. But in the past 12 hours, I've received 2 mysterious unsigned messages.
What about?
I'll read you one of them. It says, why don't you inquire into the jealousy of the 4 who now are 2?
Does that refer to the 4 professors?
Yes. I've learned that it's quite true. A great deal of jealousy did exist between them. All 4 men, although they worked together, were constantly vying with one another for individual glory.
Then that's why the original manuscript was divided among the four of them.
Yes.
You mentioned you received 2 messages, Lamont. What was the other one?
Yes, I have it here. Listen to this. What were the secrets to be found in the manuscript that was being translated by the 4 who are now 2?
Did you learn the answer to that question?
Not very satisfactorily. I can only suppose that these secrets were of an occult nature. Secrets of the ancient Orient.
I see.
And it was in the Orient, Margot, that the Shadow learned his secret of invisibility.
Yes, of course. Lamont, who could have sent those messages?
Well, I don't know his identity, but judging by the phrases he used, they were written by the same man that I spoke to on the telephone. The man who called himself the Shadow.
But why should he be helping you if he's a murderer?
I wish I knew. In any case, Margot, his messages bear further investigation. So I think I shall begin by paying a call on Professors Carter and Armwood as the Shadow.
Do you by any chance have a feeling of uneasiness, my dear Professor Carter?
How do you mean?
We still have in our trusted possession the remaining parts of the manuscript. That would make us, shall I say, logical victims?
Then you believe, Professor Armwood, that we too are marked for death?
That was not my statement. I merely point to the past as a warning of the future.
Well, that's a pleasant picture. If you don't mind, Professor, I'd rather not hear any more of your prophecies tonight. What was that?
You'll pardon my intrusion, gentlemen.
Who speaks? I see no one.
Allow me to introduce myself. I am called the Shadow.
The Shadow? He's come. He's here.
No, don't be alarmed, Professor Carter. I shan't harm you. I have merely come here seeking information.
It is true. It is true, just as we have heard. You are invisible, Shadow.
Yes.
How do you achieve this invisibility?
By hypnotizing your minds, gentlemen.
Are you here to kill us as you did the others?
I did not kill the others, Professor Carter. That was done by an impostor who used my name. And you can both help me to trap this murdering masquerader.
Help you? How?
By telling me what I wish to know, by answering my questions.
What are your questions?
What precious secrets were contained in the manuscripts that were stolen?
Secrets? I do not understand.
Do not be evasive, please, Professor Armwood. You are both working on sections of that book. Tell me truthfully, what mysteries of the ancient Orient does it reveal?
I am afraid you have been misinformed, my dear Shadow. Hasn't he, Professor Carter?
Yes, there are no secrets.
You're lying, both of you.
Lying?
Yes, and your lies are most incriminating. You see, gentlemen, I happen to know the circumstances surrounding the death of Professor Hagen. And based on these circumstances, either of you could have been his murderer.
That's not true.
You do not know what you are saying, Shadow.
But I do. So let me warn you, gentlemen. You are both under suspicion. And every move you make will be watched closely. Very closely. By the Shadow.
Did you learn anything from Armwood or Carter, Lamont?
Nothing definite. They were as tight as clams, both of them.
Well, what's to be done now?
I'm not sure. I think that I'll answer. Hello?
Is this Lamont Cranston?
Yes?
I just want to tell you that of the 4 who now are 2, 1 more is about to go.
Who is this?
You know who this is, Mr. Cranston. I am the Shadow.
Hello? Hello?
Lamont, was that the imposter?
Yes. He's delivered another warning.
What was it?
Another one of the professors is marked for death.
Which one?
He didn't say. We must warn them both at once. Come on, Margot. Carter lives right down the street. We'll go to his place. If he's all right, we'll phone Armwood from there. But come quickly. We must hurry. Professor Carter! Professor Carter!
Lamont, do you suppose something's happened to him already?
We'll soon find out. I'll use this skeleton key. I hate to do this, but... there we are. Come on, Margot. Professor Carter!
Lamont, look, the living room. There's been a fight.
Yes, furniture overturned, lamps broken.
But where's the professor?
I'll look in the bedroom.
Carter? Carter, are you in there?
Any sign of him, Lamont?
No. And this is the only other room in the flat.
Well, what could have happened to him?
I don't know. It's quite obvious, sir, that he was the one selected as the next victim.
This whole thing becomes more baffling every minute.
Quite the contrary, Margot. I think it becomes increasingly clear.
What do you mean, Lamont?
Before we came here, Margot, I was practically convinced that either Carter or Armored was the one who murdered Hagen and Rice.
Lamont, are you serious?
Yes, Margot. I felt that one of them had learned something from their share of the manuscript that made them killed to obtain the other men's copies.
I see. But how was the Shadow impersonated?
Well, that fits into it too, Margot, very neatly. I learned the secret of invisibility in the Orient. It came from an ancient source. And one of those men could have learned this secret from his manuscript.
Yes. Yes, that's very logical, but now that Carter is missing...
That leaves only Armored. And I think we should pay a call on that gentleman at once. We'd like to see Professor Armored, please.
I'm sorry, sir. He's not in his rooms.
When do you expect him?
Not for some time, sir. He's had to leave town unexpectedly.
When did he leave?
A short time ago.
Did he say where he was going?
No, sir. He just said he'd be gone for an indefinite period.
Well, I suppose that just proves Armored's guilt, doesn't it, Lamont?
I don't know, Margot. I've been reviewing the entire case in my mind, and several new factors have occurred to me.
What are they?
Well, let's wait until we get inside the flat. We'll talk about it over a cup of tea. Now, you go ahead, Margot.
Thank you. Lamont, there's a note here under the door.
A note? Let me see it.
Here.
Well, just listen to this, Margot. Tonight at midnight in the storage room in the basement of the museum, the one whom you seek can be found.
Does that mean the person who's masquerading is the Shadow?
I think it does. What time is it, Margot?
Let's see. About 20 to 12.
Well, if I didn't want to keep our friend waiting, I'd better get moving over to the museum.
Lamont, suppose this is a trap of the murderers, a scheme to kill you just as he did the others.
I'll have to chance that, Margot. But I want you to get a word to Commissioner Weston. Have him at the museum with a squad of men at 12:15. Tell him that there he will find the murderer who has pretended to be the Shadow. Is anyone here? This is Lamont Cranston. Is there anyone here? Who is that?
Don't let me frighten you, Mr. Cranston. I'm your old friend, the Shadow.
You're not the Shadow.
No? How would you know that? Answer me.
I repeat, you are not the Shadow.
I see. And would your knowledge be based on the fact that you yourself are the Shadow? Would it, Mr. Cranston? You don't have to answer. I know. I've known for some time now. You are the Shadow.
What makes you think so?
I have followed the activities of the Shadow for many years. I was most curious to learn his real identity. I began keeping track of the people who were present before and after all of his appearances.
And after discarding many suspects, your search narrowed down to me, is that it?
Exactly.
Well, I must compliment you on your cleverness. I admit I am the Shadow.
Ah, but a very powerless Shadow at this moment. Having learnt your secret of invisibility, I have hypnotized your mind before you were aware of me. This time, the real Shadow is visible, and I am the one unseen.
How did you learn my secret?
From the ancient Hindu manuscript.
Then you admit the murder of Professor Hagen and Professor Rice.
Yes, unfortunately they were in the way.
Why did you commit these crimes in my name?
Because I wanted to attract the attention of you, the real Shadow, and I succeeded. I led you on, Lamont Cranston, with my phone calls and anonymous notes.
Why? What was your purpose?
My purpose was and is to put an end to your activities. After tonight, Mr. Cranston, I alone will be the Shadow, and I shall capitalize on this power. You were a fool.
Why do you say that?
Always working for the powers of good. I shall take real advantage of the name, and with the trick of invisibility, the world will be mine.
I gather that I'm to be the next victim in your chain of murders.
To put it bluntly, yes.
I should think that you would make sure of your talents for invisibility before you attempted that.
What do you mean?
Unlike your other victims, my mind is not receptive to your hypnosis.
What are you saying?
I mean that you have been perfectly visible to me ever since you entered this room, Professor Carter.
You see me?
Most clearly. And now, if you will observe closely, I shall instruct you in the true art of hypnosis. Look at me, Professor Carter. Look at me.
No!
I am disappearing before your very eyes. You see? You see?
Wait! You can't do this! You're destroying my power! Do you hear? You're clouding my mind! Cranston!
I am no longer Cranston, Professor Carter. I am the Shadow.
You think you've tricked me, don't you, eh? You think you've gained the upper hand, but you're wrong. You're wrong!
That revolver won't be of much use. How will you ever find your target?
I'll find you!
Try again, Carter. Try again.
Open up in there! Come on! Open up!
I believe that is the police, Carter. You better put down that gun.
Let them come and get me. And they'd better come shooting. Come on!
You'll have to break open the door, Commissioner. And beware, this man in here is armed.
Keep out of here! I'm warning you! Keep out!
He's been hit, Commissioner. Come in.
Shadow, so you're here too?
I came here to apprehend that man on the floor. He is the one who used my name in killing Hagen and Rice.
What are you saying?
Look, he's still conscious. Ask him. Ask him.
All right, now. Why, it's Professor Carter.
Yes, he was my impersonator.
Carter? Professor Carter, is this true? Yes. Yes, it's true. How did you make yourself invisible? I learnt the secret from the manuscript, which I destroyed. Oh. Carter, listen to me. You must know the identity of the real Shadow, don't you? Yes. Well, who is he? Come on, tell me. The real Shadow is...
You'll never learn now, Commissioner. But I think you should know this. In the future, you must always believe one thing about me. The Shadow at all times will be working on the side of right and justice.
We'll hear from the Shadow again in just a minute. Next week, same time, same station, we bring you another adventure of the Shadow. Be sure to listen.
Crime does not pay.
This feature is produced by Reg Johnston for Grace Gibson Radio Productions, a masterpiece of suspense.